Okay, well, welcome everyone. We are so glad you are here for our latest session for our Learning with AI, Learning About AI webinar series. Welcome to those of you that have joined us here on Zoom. You can go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like. And also welcome to those of you who are watching on Facebook Live. Excited that you are here with us. You can absolutely introduce yourself there in the comments on Facebook Live as well. And if you are watching the recording later, after we've already recorded this, we also would love to hear from you. So feel free to introduce yourself there also. So let's go ahead and just go over the resources that we have and where this webinar series came from. So back in 2023, California came out with AI guidance. And so this AI guidance is available on our website. There's a bit.ly there, there's a QR code. I know some of you may be watching on a phone or listening, and so don't worry, any registrant to this webinar will receive an email later with all of these resources. But that is bit.ly uppercase capital CDE underscore capital AI for those of you that are listening later on. All right. I also want to point out that all of our previous AI webinars, the recordings are available on that website as well. So definitely check that out. There are some great voices on there and some great insights. So definitely check that out also. We also in April came out with a resource kit. And so if you're wondering, how are districts, how are county offices actually rolling AI out in educational systems? There are some examples there that you can check out. And again, that is downloadable as a PDF on that AI webpage also. So we always have an essential question of sorts to have our speakers talk about. And so today, my colleague, Dr. Christina Mattis, and I have come up with this particular essential question. How might we make AI visible to educators and the community to build awareness of its impacts? So essentially, how can we educate our educators, our students, our parents, the community around us? We have a lot of community schools now. We know that it's very important. We are in the business of education. And so we want to talk about that today. I will be, just wanted to let you know, my name's Catherine Goyette. You can call me Kat. I am the computer science coordinator at California's Department of Ed and the head of AI initiatives. And it is so great to have all of you here. I do want you to know we will be monitoring the chat the entire time. Welcome, Emily, who just introduced herself in the chat. Anyone else that would like to introduce yourself, please do so. I see we have some viewers on Facebook as well. I'd love for you to comment and introduce yourself. But we will be monitoring both the comments on Facebook as well as the chat. So as we move forward, feel free to ask questions, put in comments, etc. We do want to make this interactive. Before we move forward with our speakers, I did want to talk about our foundational beliefs that are in the AI resource kit for CDE. So firstly, we believe human relationships are, oh, this thing's in my way here. Don't show again. All right, there we go. Human relationships are crucial. Technology cannot replace the value of a student's relationship with a caring educator who can connect on a human level. So we definitely believe in that relationship between the student and the teacher. Also, while AI can unlock increased learning opportunities, including personalization and accessibility, prioritizing student safety is paramount and must be addressed prior to deciding on its implementation. Thirdly, as educators and students learn about AI, they are better able to promote ethical use with attention to potential bias, social impacts, and equity. education about AI enhances responsible digital citizenship. And finally, educational organizations developing AI policies and guidelines foster ownership and community relevance by involving local partners in the process. So you can see that this is a very human-centered approach, and we want to, as we are speaking with those that are in communities, in school communities, and working outside of school communities, that we make sure that we find out how are they engaging in this and how can we ensure that this is a human-centered process. So we are going to begin with a guest and friend of mine, Josh Harris, who is an administrator of educational technology and IT at Buena Park School District. And there is his information there. And we're going to talk to Josh about how he has been making AI visible in his school community. So, Josh, welcome. Glad you are here with us.
I'm so happy to be here with you and everyone else, Kat.
Awesome. So, Josh, I remember speaking with you about your need to make sure that your school community was aware of AI and different things about it. What was the first indication that you thought, wow, I really need to start making sure that the educators, the students, the parents in my community are know about this stuff?
So, for those of you, that's a good question, Kat. For those of you who are not from Southern California, Buena Park is home to Knott's Berry Farm, the local, more junior neighbor to Disneyland. And we are in Orange County. And in Orange County, we have been blessed by the civil grand jury issuing findings saying that we have to update board policy, start training for teachers, start instituting training and lessons and guidance for students, etc. So we have the great impetus of legal requirement behind us to start really rolling this out to the community. And thankfully, in part to the collaboration that's facilitated by Orange County Department of Ed, we have really had sort of Orange County's this group working group called AI Forward. And so in our case, what that has meant is, you know, kind of some of that is like checkbox things in terms of professional development. We've really leaned heavily on Common Sense Media for student items. By far, the largest lift here is policy and communications with our parents. So there are three board policies, and for those of you who have not had the opportunity to dive deeply into the world of board policy, you will find that we all have the same numbers around certain topics. So for example, employee use of technology is board policy 4040 across all of California. Academic honesty is 5131.9 across all of California. Um, it really isn't as fun as I'm trying to make it out to be. In any case, a lot of those things have recently been updated within the last, I think the employee use of technology policy, there's something called California State Board Association, and they provide boilerplate language, and then you adapt it. So in adapting it to our context, employee use of technology was updated by them very recently, September of 2024. And weirdly, academic honesty, not weirdly, coincidentally, academic honesty was updated in September of 2023. These provided really great sort of starting point of like how we're going to drive policy, because a big concern, there's kind of been two big concerns among teachers and to a lesser extent parents, is one, can I use it at all? And then the other one is what do we do when they cheat? And so academic honesty is an optional policy. So in any case, we had to do an academic honesty policy. We had to start with, so what are our guiding principles? So we get into all this communications language, and I'm working with the chief academic officer, and there's a header at the top and reminding teachers that keep in mind things like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc. have terms of service which do not cover under 18s, that they are meant only for children, for people over 18. To which she goes, and this is a mother of young children herself, she goes, "Oh, they are? Students aren't supposed to use them?" And I'm like, yeah, they're not. And so that caused us to take a step back and really have this perspective of, we spend a lot of time thinking about AI, thinking about how to implement it, thinking about how to use it, about how to mitigate risk and harm from AI bias, from poorly trained AI, dealing with vendors, right? I think probably most of the people in this webinar, this meeting, live in that world, right? It's not a new thing. Some of you might even be at the point where you're like, well, I prefer Gemini over ChatGPT for these things, but Claude is best for those, like, where you get to the point where you have a preferred language model based on what your task is, or like Adobe for this, etc. So what had occurred to us is we can't write our communication from that perspective. You sort of have to take it back down. And so what we're finding as we have anecdotal face-to-face conversations with some of our teachers, but honestly, some of our parents, because as with all things, they have to be our partners here, right? Is really sort of not assuming anything. So the first thing is like, what is generative AI? And that when we have a shorthand of generative AI, that's what most people believe. However, what we're hoping in the next few years is to really sort of open everyone's minds up to the other kinds of AI that are all around us. If you are on any sort of social media platform and you do any sort of what the children call doom scrolling these days, you'll notice that depending on the platform, it's really good at finding more of what you already like. Well, that's an algorithm, that's analytical AI doing that. If you have a Google Home, Apple Home, uh, what is Siri? Amazon Echo, I think is what they're called.
Alexa,
Alexa, that's what I'm talking about. Siri is the Apple one. Sorry, I don't for an IT guy, I don't do any of the smart home things. I like to just flip a light switch and turn on the lights. I don't want to have a conversation about it. Um, but the those are all narrow and reactive AI, right? They know how to do their little things, but they're not out, like Alexa's not out learning about the world and doing the machine learning at the same level that like Claude, Perplexity, etc. All those other things are. So what we're finding is, and I think that we have a problem with this if in education we get so used to dealing with expert groups. For example, if you've ever had to work on local control accountability plan and doing the stakeholder input, if you've ever had to work on stakeholder input survey, you know that you can write one version of that survey for your teachers and you have to write a different version of it for the parents because you expect your teachers to have a certain expertise level and you don't expect your parents to have the same expertise level. You especially don't want to talk to parents, for example, in the letters, how we like to talk to each other in letters, like LCAP and LPAC and all that sort of stuff. Like, so, I mean, I hear myself saying it, and I hope it sounds like, yeah, well, duh, Josh, to everyone, and everyone was way ahead of me. But it's that situation where we got so sort of um, in our bubble about it that we forgot to like do things like define terms. Ask parents just before you start issuing things in writing, what do you already know about it? What are your concerns about this? Um, it's very interesting. We're a K-8 district. Our elementary school teachers don't care about students using it to cheat at all. That's not their concern. They want to customize education, right? They want to like, well, this kid's reading at this lexile, but they're really into dinosaurs and I want to write something. Can I just have ChatGPT do it, right? Your middle school teachers are a little more concerned about it, but and parents are just like, well, I don't either they think they know a lot or they know that they don't know much or they don't know where to go to listen about it or learn about it. They haven't tried. So putting out those sorts of feelers, like kind of finding out, like what we would do in teaching where we establish prior knowledge and try to attach it to existing schema, like you find that you end up having to do that same thing, right? So as an example, all of our communications that are in draft right now waiting to be approved, uh, they start with a definition of what is generative AI. Like it learns from patterns, it makes things like text, images, video. that are new but not original, which is a really interesting semantic distinction. And then we start with our guiding principles. So our guiding principles very much mirror yours. So ours are we use AI to support professionals and help all our students achieve their educational goals. Reaffirm adherence to existing policies and regulations. We educate about AI to advance academic integrity. We maintain human agency and responsibility when using AI tools, and we will provide opportunities for professional learning and growth in the integration of AI. Um, yeah, the academic integrity is, you know, I feel like this is I've been in educational technology and professional development stuff since 2013, and I feel like I'm having the same conversations I used to have about Google. What if they use Google to cheat? What if they cite sources? I feel like I'm having the exact same conversations, but, 12, 13 years later. Um, it's a very interesting thing. So, like when you're in an expert group, um, kind of across the board here in Orange County, when I talk to people who I would call my opposite number, people who do our same job, yeah, everybody's like AI detectors are snake oil. If you have a high EL population, you're going to get a lot of false positives. We've been talking about, everybody talks about relationships with their students, but you need those academic relationships as well. Like, hey, if you know what a kid's writing is like generally on a general basis from in class, then you'll know when suddenly the level is stepped way up, right? Or when all of a sudden there's none of their typical errors. It's the same thing. And sort of having that conversation amongst teachers. So here we're talking about awareness raising or bringing awareness to teachers is like, okay, yes, you're right. It could fully write their essay for them. And then ask, like, do you know your students writing well enough to be able to spot that this was not written by them? And as somebody who taught eighth grade social studies for 13 years, um, I could tell when their parents wrote it, and their parents didn't write nearly as well as ChatGPT and Gemini and all the rest of them, right? So, and then I think it becomes that conversation of like, how many kids is it okay to falsely accuse of cheating to get to the smaller group that is actually cheating, right? Um, and so it becomes, and not like, well, you should prefer this or the other, just sort of like leading with questions. Um, so yeah, I feel like I've been talking a while and I've just sort of disgorged all of the things I'm thinking about and working on right now. But I think that's where we're doing that.
I love
When
it.
it's always mom writes the essays. I
Mom
call it mom
GPT.
GPT. Yeah.
I love
Very,
it.
very
I love
funny,
it.
Vanessa. And truly in like 2013, 2012, like you didn't write this. I know you didn't write this. Um, it's always fun. The downside, Vanessa, is you can't call ChatGPT into the parent conference to get ChatGPT to admit it wrote it. I have had parents go, yeah, okay, I helped, which is always fun.
So, so I hear you saying that some of the things that need to be communicated are maybe not saying AI detectors don't work flat out, but just talking about how do we look at academic integrity? How do we as teachers really build that relationship? Love that. What else and you also talked about safety, make the need to communicate, hey, like these these platforms are not authorized or not, the terms of use say these are not for under 18, right?
Mhm.
So that's a super important one. Are there any other do you feel the need or the desire to make sure that people are aware, that students and teachers are aware of other potential harms of AI or potential positives?
Yeah, this is my first year at Buena Park, and before that, I was 8 years in Alisal Union, which is up in Salinas, East Side. In any case, the that was for Mr. Campos, excuse me, everyone else. The one of the things when we first started rolling out professional development around AI is just to talk about how AI learns, how AI is trained, right? And so, like, basically, one of the things I really loved about working in Alisal and working in Salinas is the staff looked like the community. So very uncharacteristic of districts in California. Our teaching force the district is 90% Latino. The teaching force is about 65% Latino, right? So they mirrored the community. They came from the community. So in that case, what I said to my room full of colleagues was, so get a picture in your head of somebody who works for Google. Think about what they look like to you. Now, that person is making choices about what to teach the AI, what to put in ChatGPT. Does that person come from this community? And they all went, no. And I said, so it only knows what it's been taught. So when you guys use it, you need to vet it. Like human in the loop has to be like the human always has to be the decision maker. So I think that when we teach them not in detail on the exact processes and how it scrapes the web and how it processes text and what a token is when we're talking about long format windows as opposed to short format windows, right? No, just sort of really saying like, hey, it only knows what it's learned, right? It can only spit out what it's been given. Think about all the things that it's been given. When you hear that it's going to be trained on Reddit, if you know the sort of silliness that is on Reddit, that should give you pause, right? Um, if you know that Grok is trained on Twitter and you know the sorts of things that are on Twitter, which are counterfactual often, is that appropriate for your classroom? Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean throw it away, don't use it, ignore it. Really, ethical exploration is sort of the little alliterative phrase that we're trying to get our teachers to do. And the same, honestly, with parents. I think if parents start playing with it, um, it'll be less scary. We're also in this weird, interesting phase. There's a Global Education Institute had a study from the US, Japan, Germany, asking parents and students what they think about AI, what they know about AI, and whether or not each group thinks the other knows more. And for the first time, probably ever, the teenagers were like, from Germany, Japan, and the United States, all went, we hope our parents know more because we don't really know a lot about it. Like they were all, so I think everybody's sort of in this place. Um, and I think that the only way we're going to get to the point, like, think about where everybody was with kids on social media a decade ago. Um, I, I think most of them were right. I think we're finding a lot of psychological longitudinal negatives to that. I don't know if we're going to find that as much to AI, but again, parents who use social media tend to have a better understanding of the settings, how a kid can have a Finsta if those things still exist, how kids can hide social media, that sort of thing, and how to monitor, right? Like my sister insists on being friends or follower with my nephew on all of his platforms, and he's almost a senior. So I think those are some of the things. There's a lot of, tried and true sort of strategies, things we've done that we can apply to the new thing. I think when it comes to teachers and kids, it's got such great potential. Like a teacher could fully sidestep adopted curriculum and just make their own all year, especially in language arts and social studies and science. I think it's probably a little bit harder in math, but and just to like sort of raise awareness around the implications on those things. Our new board policy will basically say you can use it. We want you to use it. We don't endorse any particular platform. We haven't bought any licenses, but anything that you create on that and you use in the classroom, you're accepting responsibility for, which is theoretically the same policy around TPT. So I think that's it. With parents, I think it's just the ones who are interested in, I think we need to really sort of step them through because if you think about if it's not your job to learn about this right now and you don't have the support of a CDE or a county office, how are you going to learn about this? Through the media, through social media? Okay. I don't know if I answered the question because I've forgotten what the question is at this point,
Oh,
but
that's okay. I did too. But that's no, all great points. I love what the term that you threw out, ethical exploration. That is great. I hadn't heard that before. That is a gem right there. Explore, but do so ethically. Having the word ethical first is also good. I love that. So yeah, great hearing the making sure that the parents are involved and such. You talked a little bit about teachers. Do you have what kind of PD do you think is important? Should it be asynchronous, synchronous? Does it matter? Do you think, what does the PD look like for teachers? Because we know that this is something we need too.
Yeah, so I think that, first wave last year at Alisal, the first wave of it was a lot of like, hey, look at this, is what I call that kind of PD. Like Canva's got AI embedded in it. Hey, look at this. Look at what you can do with GPT. Look at what you can do with Firefly. And I think that's the first wave. Especially in Alisal, we really cultivated, like, I had a cadre of about a dozen folks who were allowed to do PD just after school on their own, like, and people would come in huge numbers. And then also always puts on its own teacher-led conference as a contractual PD day. Um, I think that that was sort of the first wave to like get people excited about it. And now I think, if that was your first wave, and if not, I would say we're at the point where we need to be talking with teachers about how's it trained. There's a lot of, and here's the thing, don't ever, I have this discussion with my stepfather all the time about he will never set foot in a self-driving car, like in a, in a, like a self, and I'm like, you do know that all car accidents have been caused by humans heretofore, right? Like, so the same thing is like, you can find a lot of terrible things on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can find some good things on there as well. And I think it's the same thing here. So it becomes about like understand how it's trained, understand what AI bias is, be on the lookout for it, decide if what you're getting is really what you want to use in class. I think there are some starting to emerge, some really good prompt engineering or prompt construction courses, and um, acronyms and that sort of thing. I think those are good ideas. Like, there are people who are just better at search on Google or on any search engine than others. And, I still think that we have been remiss in teaching that as a skill in schools. And so there's a lot of kids who um, who aren't great at it. So I think being purposeful in showing teachers prompt engineering, because I'm a firm believer that if I make sure teachers have these skills, it will filter down to kids. It will, like, they will turn around and share that with students. So I think you can do, if you buy Magic School or if you buy Canva licenses or whatever, you might do tool specific training. But I think and this is like so cliche, but I think you need to start with like, what is your intended student learning outcome? What standard are you trying to drive towards mastery? Like, what do you want a kid to know, to be able to do, and how do you want them to be able to show it? I think if you start there and like, and then how can we apply AI to that? Um, I think that's where we go. I hated writing lesson plans as a teacher. I would write myself quick little notes unless I was being observed, and then I would bring out the full, formal blah blah blah. I'm not doing that every day. But if I told the AI, like if I uploaded, hey, here's my curriculum, here are the standards. I need a, here's the things I'm going to do. Turn that into a lesson plan for me. I mean, getting ready for subplan sucks, but I bet ChatGPT wouldn't hate it as much as I did. I think there's a lot of like operational efficiencies as well. That we polled our central office, like all our classified folks, and said, "What do you want to learn about?" And we gave them a list of categories because sometimes it's you don't know what you don't know. But I think it's like they're, and every one of those, I'm trying to like generate more curiosity, get them into this sort of next thing. So I think really like asking people what you want to know and not starting from a platform or a tool. Although, when you give it a title, that starting with the tool is sometimes a good entry point. Oh, I've been wanting to learn how to use ChatGPT. Like, that's not the hard part. Like, ask it a question. It's not that hard. But like using it purposefully. So I think, but that's how I approach all PD. So
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, thanks, Josh. And if anyone has any questions or comments in the chat, yeah, feel free to continue adding in the chat. But really appreciate your thoughts and your insights, Josh. You're here. You're working through this with educators. You've been doing so for Well, now it's about AI, but before that, like you said, it was about Google and all the things. So definitely appreciate all that you've shared. I did hear you mention Common Sense Media as a resource. I dropped that link in the chat. It's commonsensemedia.org. You're getting a thank you in the chat. So awesome. And now what Josh ended with was, hey, we really need to think about how can these tools be utilized in a great way, right? How to fuel student learning, to make sure that we're using them positively. Yes, there are risks, but there's also some great things we can do with those. And with that, I want to introduce our next speaker. We're going to hear from Ed Campos, who I've known for a few years and have worked with as well. And Ed is a consultant for Kings County Office of Education, and he's also the director of Campo Creativo. And he'll probably talk a little bit about that. So Ed's in the educator space and coaches educators and such. But something that's unique about Ed, that the reason I asked him to come on is because uh, Ed is also working with the communities outside of the school-based sites, so to speak. And so, Ed, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And if you want to start sharing your own screen, feel free to do so. And so excited to hear how you've impacted communities with AI.
All right. My volume okay?
Perfect.
And then can you see me?
Yes.
Are my slides behind me? I'm trying, I don't know if this worked, but I saw this and I clicked the
Yeah,
button.
that's pretty cool.
Okay. I'd like to try
Yeah.
new stuff right on the spot for the first time ever on the CDE webinar. I'm
Love it.
living on the edge right here. Josh Harris inspired me. So good to see everyone here. Good to see Josh. It's been years. I see Scott Moss and Vanessa and some familiar folks. Um, I want to ask a question and just throw it in the chat there. Slightly different. Who and how are those in your community outside of the school going to be impacted in AI? And just, if I can see the chat, I don't know if because I've been thinking about this a lot
And I
since
can,
last year. Yeah,
if you're unable to see the chat, Ed, I can let you know what's in there.
I can see it now. So Scott,
Perfect.
yeah, I mean, it's not all puppy dogs and ice cream, for sure, right? Like I think there's already jobs that are being eliminated. You know, the workforce is going to change. So go ahead and keep dropping those in the chat, but for the sake of time, I want to talk about some of the work that I've been doing. I work for Kings County Office of Education is my main job, but I started a nonprofit a little over a year ago, and that's majority of where I've been doing. I do AI work for Kings County, but I've been doing a little more work in the community with my nonprofit. So my nonprofit's Campo Creativo. It's a play off of my last name, Campo, which means field. So the creative field, dedicated to the creative field of teaching, learning, surviving, staying sane, living with technology. I'm just going to say that I have to be creative in the way I live with technology every day. But yeah, so thank you for those the responses here, making it accessible, removing barriers. It can be up when used ethically. The energy, the environmental impact for sure. That's given our the AI driven misinformation. So we're dedicated with my nonprofit. We're small, but we've been hitting the ground running the last year, and we're dedicated to first giving creativity grants to students and teachers by partnering with local businesses, and then hosting local events, hosting or co-hosting events that are around creativity. And we've done some around AI because I think if we answer the question like who's going to be impacted, I think everyone, right? Like AI is everywhere. It's the algorithms are getting, uh, it's the worst it's ever going to be right now, and it's everywhere. It's on every device, every tab. Josh mentioned the Google search, your Google search. Now that first thing that comes up is AI generated Gemini, right? So it is um, going to be everywhere, and people should know about it, right? We need to raise awareness. So one of the first things I started last year was this free virtual PLC called the Playground because I saw uh, inequitable amounts of PD and training for teachers. And I like to build community, and I like to donate time and gather with people like this. We're gathering and building community right now. So I started this free monthly PLC, but it's not a traditional PLC. It's not professional learning community. Professional is overrated. I think it's playful learning community. We're more playful than anything. We don't take it too serious. It's after work hours. But our goal is to connect first, uh, and then get a little playtime with some AI because it's changing so fast, and learn. So it's open to anyone. If you want to join, it's free. You can register. We've got another one coming up March 19th. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I think my buddy Dr. Scott Moss is going to be co-host right there. Spoiler alert for that one. But so we've been doing some work. Why the playground? Because it's moving at a breakneck speed, and teachers, our communities need to make decisions about AI, right? It's that if you've learned anything about these task forces, the task forces are everyone, right? It's everyone at the table. It's parents, IT, students, teachers, right? That's who it should be. So it is everyone, and everyone needs to make these decisions to learn about it. So we deserve a chance. So we invite parents to. I've had non-educators attend the playground. Can I join? Yes, for sure. Right? Like join and play. Actually, we're going to be doing playground sessions in the community soon, just to have people come and play, and just to build community, right? Like we need community now more than any other time. Let's see, I'm weird. So some of the playground sessions that we've done are on, image generation, prompting. Um, Brent Warner, my buddy, did one just last month on using AI for multilingual learners, right? We're talking about the two. I mean, it can be powerful, right? It can be powerful, and to raise that awareness. But like Josh said, I love that ethical exploration, because a playground can be a place filled with joy, but a playground can also be a dangerous place, right? A playground can be dangerous. If you're not, I don't know, my mom parents used to be like, hey, you gotta go out, watch out for the strangers around there, you never know. There's glass everywhere, whatever. But so we need to teach people about the bias, about the dangers, about you know, uh, just not trusting everything you hear out of it, right? Like I have to give uh Kat Goyette's husband, my buddy Adam Juarez, a shout out. Like one of the best activities or prompts I've heard is like, just ask it something about something that you know a lot about, like helping to raise the awareness. Like, yeah, he knows a lot about Fresno State football, and he asked this question about this specific game, and it was so off, and he was like, that's not true, that's lies. And I'm like, what a fantastic way to build that AI literacy and that skepticism into it. Like, because these kids know about certain video games, anime. What do you know about? Like, I asked it about my former science teacher, Dr. Bruce Boaz, rest in peace, from my hometown, and it made up a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And I'm like, this is a bunch of BS. So, like, what a great way to raise awareness in the community. It's not just about, hey, this is, trust everything. No, like Josh said, we have to vet this, right? We have to explore ethically. So we build community, connecting, play and learn. I pulled in one of our good friends, Kate Tolnai, to add some of the fun gamification to the playground. So she's not able to make it this next one, but we got Dr. Scott Moss to fill in. And I don't know if I jumped back slides. Hold on. But one of the other things I've been thinking about too is um like, how do we make it visible? Because not just our teacher communities, but like every time we get together, we have community, right? Like we're in a meeting, we're in a PLC. And a problem I see, like, is that I feel like everyone is learning. It's like the wild wild west out there with the different level of prompt and education, AI, you know and some of us, I think there's a lot of us here that have gone gung-ho and explore it all the time. But then we get into spaces and circles where not everyone has the same level of education. And it's really concerning to me, because, like, I'm going to tag on to that ethical exploration. Do we ethically explore as a group, as a team? Because what I've seen is not ethical, because I've seen many a time, um, in PLCs, like people, oh, here's what I did with Chat GPT here, and a bunch of text pops into a doc, and hey, I solved the problem, we've got it. And I'm like, what did you even enter in that? I don't know what prompt you used to get that. I mean, it's stuff. And also, what I realized is if you're talking about environmentally concerned, that's unethical in that it honestly, it feels like to me that everyone is using the phone a friend lifeline from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and like, oh, let me ask, and then everyone comes back with some information, but I'm like, I don't know your friend. Like, let's bring one friend out to the table and have it visible. So one thing I've been encouraging people to do, and it came from this incident that I had. I collaborated with some good friends, Kate Tolnai and Jenny Cheng. Jenny Cheng's a math expert up in the Bay Area, and Kate is just amazing SoCal educator. Kate and Jenny came over to my house, and we're collaborating on this project, on this gig, this contract that I have that I brought them into. And then I quickly learned that me and Kate were talking about things, and Jenny was sitting there like looking back and forth at both of us, and was kind of like, I don't really know what you're talking about. And so I noticed, I said, hey, Kate, can we make an agreement over the next 2 days to like only use one browser uh, with the GPT window and co-craft the responses together so that Jenny can learn along with us? And then she was like, okay, because, Kate and I have like taken the AI ISTE explorations course, we've taken the advanced course, and Jenny has not been privy to any of that information. So we brought her in, and so but what happened after that, I felt like is magic and is a little bit of a, gosh darn it, I'm on Canva and it's like uh I called it group GPT, group prompting for transparency. So this is I like to come up with acronyms I like to play with words. But after that, it was like Jenny was like, oh, you could do that. Like Josh said, oh, we were ethically exploring it together. And if you've heard about like how much water one prompt makes, I've heard like one prompt is like dumping out a bottle of water, which causes me to pause. And an image generating prompt is like a gallon. As someone who cares about the environment, this I like this model better because now we're all holding hands on one bottle of water to dump it out, and it's only one bottle instead of 6 bottles dumped out with no learning going on. So I just know that at the end of that weekend, like, so this that we took a break and went to this car show. My brother-in-law had his Impala in a lowrider car show, and then but at the end of the weekend, Jenny was like, we work like 7 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, and I feel so energized because I learned. You all we leveled up together. We used her expertise. You know what I mean? And I think that's what, when we gather our community, that's what we need to be doing. This every time we gather now should be like really an AI workshop as we bring everyone along together, because they haven't been to the same CDE webinars. They haven't had the trainings that Josh Harris offers, right? It's like we need to take care of each other. So that's been a big thing I think that I do all the time. The other thing is that I've actually been going out into the community and doing AI work with, I first started, I have a friend, Maria Ravelis. She works for Proteus. It's a nonprofit here in the Central Valley that uh, services educational workshops for farm laborers. And so I talked to her about this last year, and I was like, hey, I want to do a chat GPT workshop for Proteus. And I donated my time. I went out there. So she had some English, some adult ESL students and US citizenship students that are studying to take the test. And I went out there and I just mirrored my phone on the screen. Everybody get your phones out. We downloaded it. And then I had them rocking and rolling and learning how to translate useful phrases to communicate with their bosses, to communicate with their teachers' kids, to communicate with their landlord. And it was been really powerful, very well received. I'm actually going to start. We did Dinuba, Porterville, and Kerman, the different Proteus out there, and we're going back to do that again. Very, like, one of the most fulfilling things I think I've done, like hearing some of the folks talk about how empowering that is. Because when I think about this AI, I think like it can be very useful when we're using it right. But if not, that digital divide is growing. And if people are going to lose jobs, we have people that have no chance of competing without giving them some of these skills and tapping into what could be the power of it. So It's a big part of what I'm doing. On the left side is a gathering. I started a gathering series through my nonprofit called the Creative Connector series. And the first one we did was on creatively collaborating with AI. So talking about prompting, bringing a bunch of community members together, educators, but artists, graffiti artists, muralists, musicians, video producers, real estate agent. It was like a good cross section of the whole community, and people were sharing what they used, how they used it. We were all learning from each other. Um, and it was just a really enlightening series that I think is going to continue. That I think in itself is going to continue into something else. But those uh, those are the first ones, and then let me see. One of the other things I love to share, kind of going along with the lines of GPT, my group prompting with transparency, is I like to share this idea that whenever we gather and have community around something, whether it's PLCs or in those gatherings, I use this brain writing technique. And it's from Adam Grant, and he talks about when groups meet to brainstorm, right? We lose good ideas because people shrink, and they shrink to the loudest voices. Um, but this brain writing, which I love, and I've done before with post-its, everybody get your ideas out. It's like wait time. Let's share the ideas. Um, and that group wisdom is able to be seen, right? That's visible. The group wisdom is visible, really. AI is visible, but we need our human genius to be visible. And if we always go to the prompt first, like Josh said, we need to have humans in the loop. In our brain, nobody can tap into this AI. We need to go with our ideas first. And then what I do is I've kind of adapted this brain writing to be like brain writing with AI. And I did it first with Google Forms. Like we all submitted, we were doing this book study on the art of gathering. We all submitted our idea with the purpose of what we wanted in a form, an anonymous Google form, because we were on Zoom. And then we took human pass again and highlighted what phrases do you really like about all these. Oh, I like this part. I like this part. And then we put it into ChatGPT. Hey, summarize these and help us come up with a purpose statement. And then before we even told it which phrases we preferred, because then we vetted, oh, now let's tell it, well, we really like this, modify this and make connections. So it's just a way to always place ourselves in the loop, like Josh said, and keep the human-centered use of AI. It's a collaborator, but I'm really concerned about the brain atrophy aspect of it when we lean too much on AI and don't tap into this genius first, this ancestral intelligence, I like to call it, because we have deep knowledge, we have deep ideas. Um, and then I think one of the other coolest things, like I got to give credit to Dr. Saba Kidwai, is what she opened my mind to, is the idea of using design thinking and AI, which I think, if we're talking about humans in the loop and this empathy centered idea, I think it was her that said this, like AI is not going to solve all of our problems, but it can help us solve them faster. And I think if we do it right, like design thinking, if you're not familiar with that, it's you know, empathize with people who are experiencing problems. So you've got to talk to some people, and find out what the problems are. So that's people centered and getting those voices, not just having AI generate a solution, and then start, iterating, using AI to iterate, using us to be critical, and then to refine, developing prototypes to solve. Um, but yeah, like Scott, right? And we do that all with post-its, right? Post-its, like that's my favorite thing to do, is do white books, dry erase stuff, and then post-its, and only use the technology towards the end, you know? Um, and then, so I think that's a huge potential, like just in our community in general, right? Like I'm meeting with a financial advisor in the community who reached out to me about like, hey, I want to be able to help out with, I want to learn more about AI. I see you posting stuff on AI. And he goes, I think we can help each other out. So I'm like, cool. And I've been using design thinking with them. It's funny because he actually uses design thinking with me in the financial advice. But I'm like, this is what you do already. So I'm like just helping him refine his model, using AI, and it's something we're going to hopefully share with the community and start hosting gatherings. And then one of the last things I've been doing, it kind of taps into the design thinking, is I've been hosting these retreats. I call them the creative hustle retreats through the nonprofit, where I bring together some educators, some artists, and we take a project or an idea out to Shaver Lake is where we've had it. I hosted two of these last year. I have the third one coming up in Three Rivers, right outside the Sequoia National Park. And we bring together these ideas. We do it just like Scott said. It's like super post-it, white books. You can see us ideating. What's the idea you want? You want to focus on a plan you have, and then we give each other feedback, all human brain ideas. And then we go out into nature, go for a hike, get on the boat, go hang out in the snow, and then come back later and we're having dinner. We throw it all. We reflect on it a little bit more because we've had some ideas ping around, and then we throw it all into AI to see what kind of connections we can make, what kind of plan we can design, and then we leave. We come back down off the mountain or back, into the real world with a plan and some action steps going forward. So that's been a cool project too. That I'm also working with some different nonprofits who are looking to have their retreats, trying to help them plan this. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of different ways of that I'm trying to get out there, and curious to hear anybody else what you're doing or questions you have. Just trying to share. I feel like it's all GPT. Like we got to bring everybody in to share what we know, because everybody in this group is like we're the early adopters. We got to bring everybody in and like, hey, let's bring the business folks, the families. Um, so yeah, I know I just went and spilled a lot of stuff right now.
No, that was great, Ed. Um, Speaking to that, sharing what we know and bringing in more of these early adopters. There was a question in the chat. You mentioned some AI courses. I know one was ISTE. If you could talk a little bit more about which AI courses have been especially helpful for you.
Oh yeah, I would say, and I'll try and find my document before we close right now, but I have a list with them.
Mm,
Dr. Saba Kidwise AI Bootcamp was phenomenal. The ISTE, I think it's AI Explorations. It was like the beginner course. And then there was another one, AI Advanced, for AI leaders but both of those are really good. I know KCI, I work a lot with the Krauss Center for Innovation, and they have an AI capstone. Uh, they call it the AI capstone that's going to start this summer. They always deliver quality professional development. I think with those four,
yeah, those are great. I've heard great things about some of those. I just hadn't heard of the others, but yeah, definitely the ISTE one always gets rave reviews. People KCI, like you say, always comes up with quality as well. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
if I can throw a
Yeah,
little,
please, Josh.
I don't know, spice. It's very like rainbow flavored spice, and in the sense that on Coursera, Google has two sessions that are two
Yeah.
courses that I did, Google AI Prompting Essentials, and there's a not Google AI Essentials, but something else. And I felt like while they're sort of like focused around their tools, those skills are super highly transferable. And there's a lot of things in there that I'm like, oh, I'm doing some of these, but not as well as I could have been doing them, or like, oh, I didn't even think about doing them. And I felt like I learned a bunch from those, and it was like $50. I think each Coursera one was $50. And you get a little
Yeah.
badge. And we all know how Kate Tolnai likes a little badge. So
yes,
I
she
did those
does.
as well, and I was impressed also. So
yeah.
You said Coursera and the Google. Is that what you said?
yeah,
Yeah, they have
Okay.
Google has a bunch of stuff on Coursera, but they have prompting essentials, and then there's another one that I
I
can't
think it's
remember
AI
now.
Essentials.
Yeah, I think maybe just
I
AI
think that's what
essentials.
it's called. Also, if you like asynchronous courses, I was very impressed. This is free too. IBM has a Foundations for Educators or something,
Oh,
which really goes into the history of AI and kind of how it works. So you're interested in that kind of stuff. And if you're an educator that wants to know, like, how can I bring this to students? The idea of how it works, I really like that one too. So great opportunities out there. Um, Absolutely. Ed, did you have any more? Oh, do you want to show that real quick? And I was going to share screen when you're done. So go ahead if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I just had one more plug right here. We have the playground, next playground session coming up, free playful learning community, March 19th, 5:30 to 7. And this one is going to be a custom GPT potluck. So
Hey,
uh
hey Ed, your tooltip is covering up
oh,
your URL, man.
oh, okay, hold on. The energy saver thing went blocked,
Yeah.
window blocked. Okay. Oh,
Oh, no.
hold on. Canva. All right, so I'm gonna speed that. Oh,
Oh, it did it again. How odd.
there we go. Sorry. Yeah, we have a custom GPT potluck party. So bring your own custom GPTs. If you're only using Chat GPT and haven't done the custom GPTs, you're missing out. Just like custom sneakers, custom rims, custom GPTs are pretty cool. And even if you haven't made them, come and learn how to make some and leave with some custom stuff ready for your personal or professional life. And Dr. Scott Moss is going to be the co-host. So that's even that enough is worth the price of admission right there. So
Absolutely. I love that. That's great. Um, and I wanted to thank everyone for being here once again. Thank you so much to Josh and Ed. Also, just wanted to make a quick connection to some of the things that are happening in policy. So last year there was a bill, AB, I think it was 2876, calling upon, this is a future facing bill, so calling upon the Instructional Quality Commission in California to consider having AI literacy integrated into future curriculum frameworks. So just to let you know that the state is seeing that this is important and that AI literacy is something that is not an add-on, but is something that really just like Josh was saying, we have to teach how to use Google, right? Like how to critique it. How do I know that this was a good source regarding the science I looked up or not, right? Same idea with AI literacy. So thank you for that. And also wanted to point out that Senate Bill 1288 also passed last year, and that calls for CDE to have an AI work group. It is currently in process of being planned, but we would love to get your input. I'll have a link on the email that goes out to everyone as well, so that we can find out what exactly is happening with AI in education, in your schools, and what are you concerned about, but also what's going well so that we can celebrate that. Lastly, our next steps to support you, all registrants will receive an email with links to the CDE AI resources, a link to this presentation, and an opportunity to provide input for Senate Bill 1288. And there will also be a link to the recording. There are 2 more webinars this month. So one is specifically about AI literacy. What is it? Why does it matter? So definitely join us on the 27th for that. Again, if you're not able to come, if you register, you'll still get all of the resources and the link to the recording. So definitely encourage you to do that. And then March 28th is actually the day of AI. So there will be a webinar about AI in the classroom on that day. So feel free to join us for that as well. I want to thank everyone for all you do, and thank you to our speakers. And again, we'll stay on for maybe a minute or two if anyone else has additional questions, but we appreciate you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.